right? They believed in the death and the resurrection of Jesus. They weren't denying the death and resurrection of Jesus. They were trying to put on top of that all of these works, right? So yes, we receive Christ, and they would even say, yes, that is probably essential. It's an essential piece of justification. Okay, so absolutely they accept that. Same with our Catholic friends. Absolutely, Jesus was crucified. Absolutely, we need the crucifixion of Jesus. But the difference is what you are saved into. Okay, so for the Judaizers, they would say that accepting Christ crucified is a participatory justification, or an infused righteousness are the terms there. If you want to write those down, infused righteousness, participatory justification. So it means through Christ crucified, you accept that, you believe that. Now you are into God's family, which is grace, and you have the opportunity to participate in a bunch of means of grace that allow his grace to continue to be poured out into your life. But there's a participatory requirement of that. It's infused, the righteousness is infused into your life over time through different means of grace. So if you would ever cease to participate in the means of grace, you have ceased to receive his righteousness. And you need to continue to be filled up. You need to continue to participate. Now contrast that with a Protestant understanding, Paul's understanding, that is imputed righteousness, or a forensic justification. Imputed righteousness, forensic justification means it has just happened. And when you are made righteous, you are righteous. And when Christ looks upon you, he sees the righteousness of Christ. And you will not cease to participate in things because the Spirit will compel you to do so. But even if you would, and any of that would be known as sin, it would be forgiven. Because you are a child. Salvation is about the nature of God more than about the nature of the person. So that means that when you are saved into God's family, you are imputed with his righteousness. All of a sudden, it becomes about the faithfulness of God. So all glory goes to God. Because even if you would run away as a child, think of the prodigal son, the father is perfectly faithful in pursuit of you, right? It's about his faithfulness. It's about his glory. It's about his grace. But if it's about us, that removes glory from Christ. And I'd say that's really largely what's on the line as we have this conversation. Like, what's it all matter? Participatory, forensic, imputed, infused, who cares, right? We're all after Christ. What's on the line? Chapter 2, verse 19 is on the line. That's why Paul writes it. Through the law, I died to the law so that I might live to God. You can't live to God until you have died to the law. So long as you are participating in a structure that is there to secure your own salvation, that is in part living for self, right? That's service to self. And you can't truly sacrifice until you say, I'm sacrificing concern of self. I'm not going to worry about saving self. I'm all in for God. And that's scary. And that's what entering into total faith is faith. It's faith that's saying, I'm going to stop living to the pattern of this world. I'm going to stop trying to do things that would secure my salvation. Because I have total faith that Jesus has already paid for what I was trying to pay for. Right? Does that make sense? That we're just surrendering to Jesus and letting him cover that. Chapter 2, verse 20, a little further down. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. The life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith, there it is, in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Leaving what was our security, turning to him in total faith, trusting that he has taken care of that. And that is the magnification of his grace, of his work It has nothing to do with us. So what's on the line? I would say freedom. Paul writes extensively about that there's freedom from not having to serve system, but to serve Christ. There is joy. There's assurance, that we can know Christ has paid for that. It's not on me. It's up to him. And that the inheritance is mine based on what he has done. And probably most of all, the glory of Jesus. That it has zero, not a finger, nothing to do with what we have done. It's all through Christ and his grace. And we get to surrender into that. So the invitation this morning in response to all this would be, if there's any area in your life you feel there's striving, that you're trying to make sure God's happy with you, or to maybe you've done some wrong things. So now the temptation is, I need to do some good things and make that transaction so that the scales even out. Or maybe it's a works of the law that's set in place by the world, that you got some struggles inside, some brokenness inside, and you think, well, if I just have this money, it makes me feel good. Or if I just get that position at work, it makes me feel good. Or if I just get a few drinks before I go to bed, it makes me feel good. Or if I just have the right perception of people in my life, it makes me feel good. And it takes away this stuff. It's the same exact thing from a secular position or a religious position. It's saying, no, I'm letting go of that. I'm detaching that, and I'm attaching to Christ. So whatever money was satisfying in you, or whatever a position at work is satisfying in you, or whatever alcohol is satisfying in you, or whatever pornography is satisfying in you, you release and you say, no, Christ. And I'm not going to that. I'm not going to that, because Christ satisfies. And then he gets all glory to him, because we've released from the system, from the pattern, and it's all through Christ.